Good morning. This is a virtual PBX-admin training. Training will last about 30 to 40 minutes. We do record these trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. You can just come back later to finish watching and or share the link with other staff members who need to be system admins. You can also use the YouTube's chat feature to ask questions about a feature as I am going over it. And with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get started. Here we have our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first is your username, which is your email address. It should be in all lowercase letters. Your password, which is case sensitive. And then your account name, typically your business name, which is not case sensitive. And then you click on sign in. If you're having trouble signing in, just above that sign in bar, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that and fill out the form here. So still need that email address. And then we need one of the two following pieces of information. So either the account name or a phone number that's on the account. Click on the reset password bar here, and that's going to send you an email. In the body of the email will be a link that temporarily logs you in, so you can change that password. That's the only thing you can do at that point. If you try to do anything else, it logs you out, and you'll be back here. But once you have that new password, enter it here. You have the option to click on Remember Me, and then click on Sign In. And then here we'll be taken to my dashboard page, which basically is showing me a snapshot of the account. We'll start up here at the top. You can click on your name at any time. This opens up a big pop-up to take you to your user account page, which right here is where you would change your password, for instance. As a system admin over on the left, I have access to the account level settings. And the most commonly changed thing here is a time zone and language. So you want to make sure your time zone's correct for your business location. Language would be the display language for these web pages for you, or in this case, for the entire account. System admins can also manage add-ons for the account. These would be adding additional features, and they would also increase your bill. There'll be a pop-up letting you know what the increased monthly charge would be for each feature, and then asking you to confirm that. This would include virtual text forward, auto attendance, dynamic caller ID, and advanced reporting. Also on the left, we have our billing portal, and then there's a link here in the middle. This would actually take you to the actual billing portal, where you can change things like your payment option, as well as view previous invoices. Any system admin can click on cancel account as well. Once this loads up, there'll be a little red button to the far right. And once you click on that, there's a form to fill out some questions. And then the account will close at the end of the current billing cycle. When you're done here, click on close at the top right. We'll be back on our dashboard here. To the right of your name, you have a D&D toggle. D&D stands for do not disturb. Mine is currently active, meaning I'm not accepting calls. And so calls to my user going straight to voicemail. Little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. If you have a web phone device on your user, you can log into that page using your dash login information and use Chrome or Firefox on your computer to make and receive calls. The little chat bubble icon here, this opens a new tab and takes you to virtualtext.app. This web page has its own login information, and that is how you make use of our business SMS feature that we call virtual text. Little question mark icon, this opens up a bubble at the bottom right of your browser so you can speak to our support team to get help with a particular feature. The hamburger icon, 3 horizontal lines, this is the menu icon. This gets you to other dash features. The arrow to the right is to log out of the page. Down here in the middle, total users. I have 5 users on the account. I'm paying for all 5 users, right? For more users you have, the higher your bill. Then I have total devices of 14 and a breakdown of the kinds of devices. The main thing to look out for are your VoIP devices. So soft phones, web phones, or SIP phones. Those are all the three types of VoIP phones. Depending on your plan, that could be increasing your bill. Some plans include a VoIP device per user. So the first one's free, but after that, it would increase your bill. Total numbers, I have 12 phone numbers on the account. Your account includes at least one main local number. Some of our plans will also include a local number per user. So this plan, I'm paying an overage per number, which is $4.99 per number per month. Down here, I have conference bridges. I have two. That means I've enabled conferencing on two of my users, so they can host or moderate a conference. To the top right, my main number block, these three numbers all behave the same way. They're going to the same part of my system, and they're all playing the same main greeting. The conference number, I have one main conference number, but you can have multiple if you want. But this is the phone number everyone dials to join a conference, including your staff. You'll be prompted to enter the conference room number and PIN number. The fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit the fax box to allow for outbound faxing. The company directory, there's two links here. The first is CSV. This just downloads a CSV file, open with your favorite spreadsheet program. It's going to show all your users, their names, extension numbers, etc. The soft phone file, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. So if you're using our soft phone app on a Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file, upload it to your soft phone app. In your contact list, you'll see your other users listed, as well as the status of their VirtualPBX soft phones, i.e. if they're on a call or not. VirtualPBX Store, this opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone. The account realm is unique to each account, and you need this for programming a third-party soft phone, as well as for outbound faxing, which we'll cover later. Back up here in this blue bar, we have caller ID, and you click on this button. This pull down here to the right lets you select one of your main numbers. That number becomes your default number for your VoIP phones when they make outbound calls. That's the outbound caller ID that they show. And then click on Save Changes. Hold music. You can upload your own hold music files, .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte. You would just click Upload here, click Browse to find the file on your device, click the up arrow icon, click on Save Changes. This file then becomes the default hold music for your entire company, right? For all your staff members. This is after they have pressed hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this file plays. Ours is actually part of main number, but before we get there, we want to make sure we've got destinations like groups and users. So let's over here on the left, we'll click on users. Here on the user page, you see all the users that are on the account. Someone with the blue suit icon, those are your system admins. User with just a gray user icon, like Dante here, this is a standard user, very limited access. To add a user, click on Add User at the top here. The big box will show up here. You fill out the form. The main thing to be aware of here is the email address used for login needs to be unique for each user. You cannot reuse an email address for multiple staff people. All right, create a password. You can also edit the extension number to whatever you want it to be. By default, the system will automatically create a voicemail box for this user. Just saves you a step. They can even log into it right away from a VoIP phone and create their PIN number and voicemail box message. You can choose to have them be in the user directory. You can always change that later. You can choose to have email sent to an alternate address. The email address used for login is how the system communicates with your staff, i.e. password resets, voicemail notifications. If you want those messages to go someplace else, put a check mark here. Enter that different email address in the box provided. This is also something you can change later. Here's your option to send credentials to the user when it's created. Click on Create User when you're done, or Create User and add another if you need to add more people. When a user is created, you can click on their name. And you can do things like change their name, change their credentials, right? So here you can change their name. Here's your option to change either their email address for login or their password. can change their voicemail PIN number. Here's the option to send to alternate address. Here's the option to be in the user directory or not. This pull down over here on the right, next to the person, this allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. The little clock icon here, this pull down allows you to set the time zone for the user. This is mostly so to make sure their voicemail timestamps are correct. The flag icon, this allows you to change the display language for that user, English, French, German, or Russian. The ringing timeout default is 20 seconds, which is plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user making use of a cell phone, you're going to want to increase this to 30 seconds. Any changes, click on Save Changes. Extension numbers, users can have multiple extension numbers. You would just click on Add Extension Number and enter that new extension number and then Save Changes. Users can have their own phone numbers. The main thing to know is that this phone number is available 24/7 and it's not have holidays. You have your option for adding from spare numbers or by numbers. In the show notes, just use a support page link and do a search for adding a phone numbers or DID phone numbers, and that would take you through step by step on that. Devices, we recommend that you do add devices directly to a user as that makes things easier. The only one I'm really going to cover here is under a new device and is the soft phone. So whenever you add a soft phone or web phone, you will get this warning message here. And then you please read it at least once. Once you click on close, you get this big box. Now this is defaulting to a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using somebody else's soft phone app. That's perfectly fine. You would record this information and use that to program or provision that device. For the SIP password, you would click on the box to reveal that. Please don't change it. Here's that account realm, which is what you would need. If you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone, however, you don't need all of that. Down here below the view configuration, click on use third-party application. It's a toggle, so now I've just clicked it, and so it says use VirtualPBX application. I still need to give it a device name. I click on create device, and then I click on save changes. Once I do that, Dante here gets an email saying his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. In the body of the email is his username and password to log into the app, as well as download links so he can download the app to his preferred device. For all the other devices, use the support page link, or you can also look at the auto provisioning document, which is for the SIP phones that are auto provision supported. User features, there are several here. I'm going to cover two in depth, and the rest you're going to want to look at the support page link. So first up, voicemail, typically enabled right away for most users. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and cannot accept any more. This is the default settings for a voicemail box. We're sending an email to the user when a voicemail is left, and we're attaching an MP3 file to that email, right, so they can listen to it right there. If they need to manage the voicemail, they need to either call into their voicemail box, easily done by a VoIP phone. Right? So if they have a VoIP phone on their user, they pick it up, dial *98, enter their PIN number, and they can listen to their messages over the phone and delete them over the phone. They can also access their voicemail box via the user portal, which defaults to their voicemail tab, so they can listen to it, but they can also manage their voicemail messages there. Next up is Follow Me. Now this is for users with multiple devices. This user here has 3 devices. So right now, without Follow Me enabled, when calls come to this user, all 3 devices ring at the same time. I don't want that to happen, or the user complains, hey, I don't want that, then I would come here, click on Follow Me, and click up here at the top to enable. And then I need to talk to that user and say, hey, what devices do you want to ring? And in what order? Right? So they tell me what they want to use. I uncheck those devices here under Do Not Ring. Oops. So say, for instance, I want the top 2. Now I can click and drag these little green bars to give the ring time, or I can just click Distribute. And then that equalizes out between these 2 devices, and it's always going to be in this order. If I need to change the order, click and drag, click Distribute again. This little box up here is the total ring time for this user, which for the follow me setting is 120 seconds. If I feel that's too long, I can change that, for instance, and then I'll need to click distribute again to equalize out. Again, these are still adjustable. Oops. So I can have them overlap more if I want them to. And any changes, click on Save Changes. One key thing to note is if this user has following me enabled and they are part of a group, which we'll be getting to next, calls from the group ignore the follow me setting. Right? So in that case, all the devices would ring. That's one way the user would know they're getting a call from the group. All right, let's get a quick rundown on these others. Caller ID number. This is for users that have their own phone number. When you enable it, the phone number on the user becomes their outbound caller ID from calls from their VoIP phone. So instead of the main number, that would be the default. Fax box. This allows you to enable a fax box for this user only. Conference bridge. This enables the conference feature for the user, meaning they're hosting or moderating a conference. Call forwarding. This allows for call forwarding to an outside phone number. Now, this user has a cell phone as one of their devices, so I don't really need call forwarding unless they're going to forward to a different number completely. This is also good for a user that only has a VoIP phone. As an admin, you can set up failover mode. So if their VoIP phone goes offline, you could forward to their cell phone, for example. Customized call recording. This allows you to choose to record calls, both inbound and outbound. Music on hold, you can choose to have a user have their own hold music, and you would upload a .wav or .mp3 file. Do not disturb means you put a user on do not disturb, i.e. they're busy on a particular important project. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. This is for hybrid scheduling or shared office environment. Basically, you have people who don't have an assigned desk that sit at every day. So this then allows them to log into the VoIP phone that they're sitting at for that day, and then calls for their user will come to that phone that they're sitting at. End of the day, they'll log back out of that phone, and the next person can then sit there and have calls come to them. And again, please use that support page link in the show notes to look up the actual steps for each of these features. Next up, we have groups, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, or you can just view them as departments. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number. Click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group, and then click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name at any time. You can change the name. Probably more important is the group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer the inbound call to the group members. Little arrows at the right of this box that you can change this as necessary. Here's the option to delete. If you make changes, click on Save Changes. Then we have the members box. This shows who you've assigned to the group and how calls are being offered to them. This is an example of ring all or blast ringing. And so when a call comes in, whoever picks up the call first gets it. The only potential hiccup here would be if two people pick up at the same time. Only one of them gets the call. The other one's going to get dead air. Just be aware of that. This is setup is similar to the follow me user user setting. You have the option to distribute. So now it equalizes out over time. There's a timestamp here. Defaults 120 seconds, which is probably what you would want in a group. One thing to know about when you have it in distribute mode like this, it always goes in this order. So even if Dante is on a call and a call comes in the group is still going to offer him the call, even though he's already on one. Right, for, in this case, for 40 seconds, and then it would go to David. Right, now, you can click and drag so that those later callers aren't waiting as long, right? But still, Dante is going to be offered that call initially. Just like under the follow me settings, right? You can click and drag to change the order, and then click distribute as necessary. And then here's your option to add more people to a group if you need to. Any changes, click on Save Changes. Groups can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Just click on Add Extension, and then enter that new extension number, and then Save Changes. Groups can have their own phone numbers, which means the phone number rings directly to the group members. The caller doesn't have to press a menu option or anything. But also, like under a user, phone numbers on our group are available 24/7. Group features, bring back. This is essentially hold music for the group. You would click up here to enable, upload a .wav or MP3 file. The main thing to know here is the system does not loop the file for you, so you want to make sure your total playtime matches or exceeds total ring time you have set up in the group. Click upload, browse, up arrow, save changes. Next action, this is what you want the system to do if no one picks up. So you would click to enable, and then down here, you select something on your system, another group, another user, specific voicemail box, right? Just wherever you're sending the call if your staff members weren't able to pick up that call. Allow call forward basically means you're letting your users make use of call forwarding for calls from the group. Prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can add additional text or numbers that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones in front of the caller ID of the inbound caller. Right? So customer Mary calls in, reaches out to Bob's VoIP phone. On Bob's VoIP phone, he'll see the word support and then customer Mary's phone number. And so then he knows what the call is likely about. Any changes, click on Save Changes. So now that we have users with devices and groups, we can go to main number. Main company numbers, you can unassign them here. You can add or buy new and refer to the show notes or the support page. Office hours strategy, you can be open 24/7 or have custom office hours for each day of the week. You're open, put a check mark, and then set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option to be closed for lunch every day. Just put a check mark here and then set your lunch hours for those times and click on Save Changes. Office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then over here to the right, click on Add Holiday. You have your option here for single day, date, range, or advanced. Essentially, it gives you a new row and fill out the row. Right? So give it a name, month and date, or start date, end date. The advanced, you have to choose the month. The second pull down offers you 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then the day of the week. If you need to remove a holiday, click on the little trash can icon, and then any changes, click on Save Changes. Incoming call handling. This for your main numbers, right? So I have 3 main numbers. How am I handling calls during my open hours, my after hours, my holidays? First up, calls come in for my open hours. I'm having them go to the virtual receptionist. This is a link when you click on it, and you have this big box. Your main menu, these are where where you add options for people to press on their phone to navigate through your system. Click on Add Route. This first pull down, all 0 through 9, the star key and the default action. The second pull down are things on your system. Users, groups, specific devices, voicemail boxes, media files, what have you. Then you have your greeting options here. You have text to speech, which is simply you type in a greeting, the system reads it back in a computerized robotic voice. Upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte in size. Choose from an existing recording. This pull down will show you media files that are already on the account. You can record it over the phone. By default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone on the account that's registered. If you don't have that available to you for whatever reasons, then under settings, you want to go to allow outside recording and turn this on. And that means you can call in from any phone and record your greeting over the phone. Now, you still need this PIN number, which is specific to this time of day, right? So it only works during my open hours. If I called in on Saturday when I'm typically closed, this PIN number does not work. But once you do that during your open hours, the system will then walk you through recording of your greeting over the phone. It's going to overwrite the existing main greeting that's in place. Professional recording service. This opens up a new tab, takes you to Snap Recordings, which is a separate company. You can choose your package or the option you want to use. They bill you directly, typically via credit card. They send you the completed file via email. So then you would just come here to upload your own file. All right, settings, number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. This case, this one is set up for 1 retry, which means my inbound caller gets 2 total attempts. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for an additional button press, i.e. if someone's trying to enter an extension number. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just means if someone calls in and enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. If this is off, that means my inbound caller can only press my menu options. If they enter in an extension number, the system treats it as invalid entry. Option here, suppress the playing of invalid entry. So when the customer keeps making a mistake, the system says, we did not recognize your entry, and does one of 2 things. It either says goodbye, meaning it's ending a call, or it says transferring your call if you have a default action in place. In that last option, you might want to turn suppressing on. So that way that message doesn't play, right? We did not recognize your entry. Instead, it just says the customer keeps making a mistake, and then the system says transferring your call. So you would need a default action in place for that. All right, any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your setting, you need to click save here. And again, save changes here. And if you want a written instructions on all of that, again, support page, just do a search for incoming call handling. Now, during my after hours, I'm using the second option, which is the live operator answer option. This pull down lets you select something on your system, generally speaking, a user, a group, or a phone. And then if that person or people aren't able to answer the call, it goes to my after hours virtual receptionist in this case. So I have different menu options, likely I have different greetings, potentially different settings. And then for holidays, I'm using this third option. This first pull down is something on your system. Users, groups, media file, phone, etc. I chose the other option, which is just skip the voicemail. And the second pull down, choose a voicemail box on the system. Main conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. You also have the option here for a custom greeting, which is text to speech. You would just click enable and type in that greeting and then save changes. If you leave this disabled, the system still says welcome to the conference and then asks you to enter the conference room number and PIN number, excuse me. Main fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number, but once you do, you can edit the fax box. Inbound notification, designed to put in an email address into the box to the right. That email address gets sent a message every time a fax is sent into your system. They get the details of the call as well as a PDF attachment. Just be warned, if someone dials your fax box number and hangs up, this email address gets sent a message saying that there was a failed fax attempt. Email permissions, this is for outbound faxing. You can either put an email address in the box here to the right, or you can put a company email domain. So in this case, anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out on this account, even if they're not an employee or a user on this account. Have the valid VirtualPBX email. To send a fax out is via email. They create an email from the virtualpbx.com email address. In the to field, they need to follow this format here. So +1 area code and phone number of where they're faxing to. The little @ symbol, then the account realm. Then they just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send, right? The system only looks at the to field, the from field, and the PDF. Anything you type in the subject line or the body of the email is not transmitted. Only one attachment per email, so make sure you don't have any extraneous attachments. Also, only one destination address per email. Right. Auto attendance, add-on feature. This allows you to create multiple attendants, typically done because you have multiple businesses that you want on the same account, so they have their own phone numbers and their own greetings. or you want to do something that's referred to as submenuing. The classic example is for multiple language, one for English, two for Spanish. Each of those would have their own attendant with greetings in their language and menu options. You click add attendant here at the top, give it a name, give it an extension number, click on create attendant. By default, it starts off as unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant. Right? It's a toggle, so I can always change it to be available in main menu if I want it to be. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers. They can have multiple phone numbers if you want, either buy new or add from spare. You have the extension number box, so you can add multiple extension numbers to an attendant if you want it to. And then you have the little wrench icon here under settings. Open hours, after hours, holidays, right? This will match what you set up under your main number, but they all have a virtual receptionist. So you have to set up menu options and greetings, etc., and then save changes. Devices shows your devices on your account. Red means it's unregistered, so we can't send a call to it. Green, we can. You can add devices here directly here. We don't recommend it. We typically say add it directly to a user to save you a step. The soft phone you can add here. However, you can only add a third-party soft phone on this page. There's no little toggle here to make it a VirtualPBX soft phone. The other thing to be aware of is for the VoIP phones, you can click on the wrench icon here under Edit. There we go. And under Advanced, you have Emergency Caller ID. So you can assign an address to each of your phone numbers, and they can be different addresses. Then you can assign those phone numbers with those address combinations to specific VoIP phones, right? So for your staff member, Bob, who's working from home, you can assign a particular phone number and address, which has his home address associated with it, to his VoIP phone for the purposes of 911. So if he has to call 911 from his VoIP phone, his address is transmitted, not your corporate headquarters. Your Greetings Manager or Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. You have the name of the file. The source, TTS, it means text-to-speech, created under your auto attendant or virtual receptionist. Upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. The play icon lets you play it back right in your browser so you can listen to it to see if it's relevant. Download lets you download the file to your device. I recommend this for your main greeting that you use for most of the year, so that way you have a backup copy of it, other than with us. Little wrench icon here under Edit brings up a box. Here you can change the name so it can be something that's easily recognizable to you. Or if you don't need the greeting, click on Delete Greeting. Numbers takes you to your numbers and use page. It shows you what numbers you have and where they're assigned. Spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not using. If you put a check mark in front of that number, you have the option to delete. And then you would click on delete number to confirm that deletion, so then you're removing it from the account. You can buy numbers here, which would just add more spare numbers to your account. Port means you're moving a number from another carrier to VirtualPBX. Right? So say from AT&T to VirtualPBX, you need to fill out the various forms in this process, as well as fill out an LOA or letter of agency and sign it, then upload that. For the complete instructions, definitely use that support page link and do a search for porting. That's going to give you the complete guide for that. Voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything that has an entry under the user column was a voicemail box created with the user. But if you need to create additional voicemail boxes, you can do so up here at the top. There you go. Give it a name, voicemail box number, PIN number, click on create voicemail box. One thing to keep in mind is that voicemail box number is not the same as an extension number. So entering this at the virtual receptionist will not get you to this voicemail box. But you need that voicemail box number and PIN number to check voicemail messages over the phone or change the greeting over the phone. Under advanced greeting media, you can upload a voicemail greeting file. You have two options, media and temporary. If something is selected in temporary and media, right? Something in both, only the temporary file plays. The media file won't play again until you set temporary back to none. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, the email address used for login, but any voicemail box, you can come here, click on add recipient and enter additional email addresses. Keep clicking add until you're done, and then save changes. And then options, once you have a media file in place and recipients, you can click on already set up. And then you can make sure that you have the attached messages to email. And for a voicemail box that you don't want to get full, you can also choose to say delete after notification. Right? Basically, after we send out that email, we delete the message from the system so the voicemail box doesn't become full. Virtual text forward, add-on feature. This allows you to have phone numbers accept inbound text messages and then send them on. This is not for two-way text communication. You have to select, it starts off with a number. It only lets you select numbers from your spare number list. And then you enter in either an email address or a webhook that you want the system to send the message on to. Click on create text forward. Virtual extensions, that's a plan specific feature. This allows you to add additional extension numbers without adding users. These virtual extensions can have one device. It cannot be the VirtualPBX soft phone because we don't have an email address to associate with it. Right? If you click on add extension, you give it a name, you give it an extension number, click on create extension. That extension number is accessible from the virtual receptionist or your auto attendants. You can also make it a menu option. These virtual extensions cannot be part of a group or a call queue because they are not users. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You have today, this week, this month. You can always download the file as a CSV. Custom, this lets you go back up to 12 months. After that, the system won't let you go any further. You would just click on that and then click on filter. If you need to go back further than 12 months, you need to contact our support team. They need to escalate that up to the engineers, but they can only back up to 18 months. A green arrow to the right, that's a call that came into the system. If you click on it, you can see if they actually reached any devices, which in this case, they did not. A yellow arrow to the left is a call going out from the system. Little fire extinguisher icon. This reports the call, which means it creates an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. And then it will have the technical details of the call. Please type in the context, i.e., why are you sending this call in? Feature codes. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. This is a page here. You can also do a search under the support page for feature codes or the phone commands cheat sheet. Next up, we'll go to blacklist. This is an included feature. This is how you create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your staff members. You need to add, the format is +1, area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Please use that support page link for the step-by-step instructions. Be aware that the calls that the numbers when they call in from this, the numbers that you put on these lists, when they call into your system, they will show up in your call log, but they're not going to ring to your staff members. Call recording, this does one of two things. This account is set up with AWS, so it's going to show me my AWS interface. If I did not have AWS set up on this account, it would instead open up a new tab and take me to recordings.virtualpbx.com, and I would log in with my Dash login information. But here I can see my call recordings, I can play them back, I can download them, etc. Number manager, this just takes me back to my spare number page. User portal, this is where every user can access their own user portal. So it starts you off on your voicemail. You can play it back over here on the right or download it. There's a little box here at the very front. If you put a check mark here, That's where you can change the status of the voicemail. Call history, you can view your call history and change the date range. Faxes is good if you have your own fax box, in which case you can see your fax history. Contact list is everything on the account. A conference would be where you would set up your conference settings if you have conferencing enabled on your user. And then settings and devices, right here is where your staff members can enable call forwarding themselves. They just put a check mark here, +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and they click save. Now I'm call forwarding. All right, if I uncheck it, now I'm not call forwarding. All right, webhooks is a plan-specific feature. This is how you would link your Dash account to other software, like Zapier, for example. Click on new webhook, and you would fill out the form. In the show notes, you can see an introduction to Zapier webinar. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code. SMS registration, this is what you have to go through if you want to make use of business SMS. You have this informational page here. Click on the start registration and click on register to start the registration process. And then the registration status will let you know where you are in that process. There is a one-time $99 setup fee. Call center, this opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com. This is available on our Ultra plans, and this gets you to call queues. These are an advanced version of groups. If you look in the show notes, you'll see the ACD QUEUES Pro demo, which will explain how to make use of these. Dynamic caller ID, this is an add-on feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones, like by area code. Right? You can set up a rule here where if my staff members dial a 702 number from their VoIP phones, the system automatically going to change it to this 702 number. Faxes, this is my fax manager, shows me where basically my fax history, both for inbound and outbound. Reports, this is the advanced reporting add-on. Opens up a new tab, has its own login information. In the show notes, look at the advanced reporting demo. Voicemails, this lets you, as an admin, get to any voicemail box on the account so you can manage voicemail messages. Right, they would just display here. You could play them back, download them. As an admin, you have the additional option of moving a voicemail message to a different voicemail box if necessary. Integration AWS, this is on an add-on. So this is how you would link your Dash account to AWS. You would click on new account. But basically from AWS, we need the access key, the secret access key, and the bucket, and then save changes. And then you can store things like your call recordings, your faxes, or even your voicemail messages on AWS. And that is everything. Again, please make use of the support page link for any of the features if you want a full breakdown